Live. We are live.
We just went live. That is broadcast training. You said it right as we did it. That's perfect. Look
Amazing.
at you.
Awesome.
That's Dave Van de Walle. He's a marketing and sports expert. He's been doing marketing for decades, started out in sports radio, does the Vandy program, which I've been on a couple of times to kill his ratings numbers. But I appreciate him letting me do it. But how you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. No, the thing that kills my ratings numbers when you're on is if my microphone is bad. So
We have all done it.
Yeah, the last time you were on the show, you sounded great, and so the snippets that I was able to share from you, perfect. Me, not so perfect. I had a microphone jack issue that was.
Yeah, but it's happened to all of us because it's happened. And in fact, I just helped a reporter friend a couple of days ago. They sent me, they're like, I forgot that my Bluetooth was hooked to my headset. My headset was in the other room. So I got none of the, so I, dumped it on Audacity and was able to recover most of it. But we've all done it. I've had it happen to me on live TV where I did a Fox 5 one time. It was right after I'd gotten the new desktop and I ran everything. Everything was good. But I'm sitting in the green room because I'm in the second segment. So I got, 7.5 minutes, whatever it is. And it just crashed and I redid it and it wouldn't read my USB rig mic. So I busted out the little Yeti mic, the USB. It wouldn't read that. Literally, the guy comes on. He goes 30 seconds from commercial in my ear. I kill it all, take my phone out, set it on the edge of my desktop, just set it at an angle, turn it on, hit record, 3, 2, 1, bang, on. And I did the whole thing from my phone and just made it by that much. And he's like, that was a weird camera angle. I'm like, yeah, I literally just threw my phone on top of the computer because, we do it live, folks. It's media, crazy stuff happens. There's nothing you can do about it.
If you want to segue into sports, I can tell you a story because back in my Syracuse days, we were preparing for a weekend game. You have to do a lot of more prep for football than basketball, as you would imagine. So we're preparing for a weekend game. And my job was to interview the esteemed head coach of Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, who was great. Great interview.
Good guy, but I'm a West Virginia guy. You got to understand.
Yeah. So, of course, this is one of the first times I get to interview a coach, and I got the microphone with me, and I do so coach, this weekend's game is really, really important. Tell me about how Virginia Tech's preparing. Something like that. He starts talking. I realized I had not hit record yet. So he gets through with his very eloquent answer, and I look at him and said, I forgot to hit the record button, so I'm going to have to ask you that again. And then I hit the record button and asked him that again. He was very gracious about it. Not as interesting, though. Not as interesting as the time we played Florida State. And so I drew the straw of interviewing Bobby Bowden. So we go through the sports information people, and they get the coach on, and I say, Coach, thanks for joining us. And his response is, "How you doing, boy?" So
that's Bobby.
I figured I had made it. I had made it.
When Lou Holtz died, I got to tell I met Lou Holtz in a USO thing, just a handshake line thing, kind of thing. He always asking people where he's from, like West Virginia. Of course, he was from the area, so he's like, "Oh, and he went to turn around and with his legendarily dry humor, right as he left, he turned around, looked at me, and kind of went like this. He wasn't a real big guy. He kind of leaned down like this. For you podcast people, I'm sorry. He goes, "I'm not sorry about the '88 game." Walks off because they beat WVU because he had that humor about him. But for those of you that don't know, WVU played Notre Dame in what was the de facto national title game, and our quarterback got hurt at the very beginning of the game, or we would have won that game. And lost 24-17, 21-17, something like that. But
I don't think it was as close as that. So I grew up by South Bend. So obviously this was
you remember that
big moment for me. I think it was like 34-21, 34-20.
Yeah, something like that. But Major Harris was probably one of the best. If he'd be playing today, he would have been a much bigger star because the dual threat thing was still they didn't know what to do with it back then, but he was amazing college football player.
Yeah. He was Michael Vick without the dog stuff, and also Michael Vick with the with the two-way
Yeah,
threat
he was an
thing.
amazing, and this is before, people weren't, this is 88's season. So I'm like 8, 9 years old. So this is formative sports stuff for me. But he had a rocket arm and could run, but you didn't have the game structure now where everybody does that. So he didn't really know what to do with it. But yeah, I will never get over it. That's probably as close as we're ever going to get, and I'll never get over it. So sorry. But anyway, good segue to sports. I want to talk about, so my thing in politics, I have some fundamental principles as an analysis, as a talking head. So I don't, number one, so I don't look like an idiot any more than I have to, because I look like an idiot. I have a face for radio. But so that you know what you're talking about, I stick to some principles. One of mine in politics has always been follow the money. You don't get truth in politics, but money gets you pretty close. It'll at least give you some motivation. You can kind of figure out what people are doing. More and more as I watch sports, I think sports, it's really important to follow the money. And the reason I bring this up is, and I want to start here because your professional background's in marketing, so you understand how this works. You've already talked about how you come, those Syracuse people take their sports broadcasting seriously. That's a factory.
We do.
A lot of big names. I see it, the sports commentary and the sports media has really become a lot like the political media. And a lot of that's just because content's content. So it's kind of all, drained into the middle. But I think the principles that we use for politics, like following the money, like understanding biases, like understanding interpersonal relationships, trump a lot. And then mostly importantly, like politics, the fans that are just watching the clips and the games have a disconnect from the business reality of what's actually driving things. And that's where you get the conspiracy theories and not understanding how things work. I see a lot of parallels in those two things right now. And I think a lot of it is there's so much money in sports and there's so much money in politics. The media has kind of become the same kind of way to cover both.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Andrew. And I think one place to start. So in one of my interviews earlier this year was, you mentioned the Syracuse thing, and I'm also a product of WAER radio, which is the cradle of sportscasters. You kind of have to spend your time there as a youth if you want to get into broadcasting. And earlier this year, I interviewed a chap named Matt Derry, and Matt is he's part of the Locked On podcast network. So he does a daily show on the Lions. He's been a sportscaster in Detroit for a long time. He's a really, really good guy. But he had gone back to Syracuse a couple of years ago for a alumni weekend type thing. And he was meeting a lot of the people at the station and Syracuse has produced a ton of play-by-play guys specifically. So Costas, Mike Tirico, Ian Eagle, Dave Pash, Andrew Catalan are among the names of the people that were WAER products. But Matt said that there was something interesting going on at when he was meeting with young broadcasters, because there are two tracks at WAER that you can pursue. One of those is the play-by-play track, which is great. I mean, you get your reps, you get to cover major sports, football, basketball, and lacrosse. You get to travel with adjacent to the team, etc.
Constantly.
Yeah, but the other track that Matt said was much more popular amongst the student future broadcasters was the sports talk track. And that is, I think, a product of the follow the money generation. Because if you look at some of the folks who have made it in the last several years in sports adjacent media or sports media, they're mostly talkers, and and I mean, this is obviously there's the broadcast rights, the play-by-play guys things, but the sports adjacent stuff where you can just put down a microphone and start talking and get people to watch you. They're the talkers, and they're the talkers who have been, by and large, funded by gambling advertising. And this is, I mean, I think two of the best examples would probably be Clay Travis, who they think is a very respectable guy, but has sort of segued into more of the sports meets politics.
Very sharp change from 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. But
that's not all criticism, although I don't agree with him on everything. That's just watching he talks about this publicly. He was kind of an Al Gore guy politically. Now he's gotten into the politics. He's mixed it all together. Like, I'm just saying, career arc, you can see it over the last 10, 12 years he's been a public figure.
Yeah, and there was definitely, with Outkick, there was the SEC in covering college football.
His college football book was really good, by the way. Whatever you think of his politics now, that's a great book.
Yeah. And but there was as he started to become huge and his orbit became larger and larger, there was more discussion of sports gambling, betting, and he's I think shied a little bit away from that after stepping away from Outkick and becoming a Fox News contributor, in addition to, of course, the taking over the Rush Limbaugh time slot. But Dave Portnoy is the other guy, and I think Barstool. Think what you want of Barstool. It would not be as big as it is without the proliferation of sports gambling dollars, and a lot of these shows were beneficiaries of the money that came into. It's sort of like pharma meets political advertising. If you can think about any of the states I remember I was in Philadelphia in 2019, it was like September or so. So it was gearing up towards the election, and they were trying to get sports gambling legalized. And the ads that were being shown everywhere were all about, you need this for the state of Pennsylvania, and you need to be able to do this, and blah, blah, blah. You don't want all your money going over to New Jersey, et cetera. So there are a lot of sites that grew up, and a lot of sports talkers that grew up with the benefit of gambling dollars. And so from a follow the money standpoint, it's kind of obvious that's the direction I think that a lot of it is going, is the talkers funded by the gambling dollars.
Yeah, and I lived in Vegas when I get there, 2009, 2010 till 2012. So I lived in Vegas for a couple of years before gambling went nationwide legal. And I got the preview of it because sports talk radio in Vegas at that time was what sports talk radio has turned into gambling wise. Now, it was so gambling focused. But I think it's important to talk about the reason why the gambling and the sports, it's not just the addiction stuff and all that. By the way, I'm for legalized gambling. I also think you can be a degenerate gambler. Those two things live coexistently. I can criticize your gambling and I'm not a prohibitionist either. So just get that on the table. But I saw it firsthand in Vegas, what it is and the reason the gambling has met this moment. It's not just the gambling thing, is the hardcore gamblers and sports bettors, they absolutely have to have every shred of information about everything, because that's how their mind works, to try to go, okay, this is how I'm participating. It's not just a wag guess, and I'm not just throwing money at the board. I'm trying to understand things. It's the perfect combustible element for sports media and a content-driven business model, because there's no such thing as too much information. There's no little scrap of information that doesn't matter to them. It's so, and a lot of the people that sports bet will tell you, like, it makes the games more exciting. It heightens the high, for lack of a better term. Like, that's why they're doing it. They enjoy it. It's making it more intense to them. It's just the perfect thing that the content is always going to be important to the gambling public. So the bigger the gambling gets, the more demand for content, the more feeding into the business model. So it's not just the addiction side of gambling and the dark side of gambling. There's a linear, logical thought process to how that business model is going. My only question about it is, and you're a marketing, professional as your real job, you tell me, because this is a conversation I hear off air a lot, because it also, political advertising is having the exact same problem. that the gambling money's having. There's so much gambling money and it's so upfront and they're just throwing it at you. What's the limit though? Because I think we've capped out on what political advertising can do, but these radio stations and these local TV stations can't survive without it, right? They got to have that revenue. I've wondered, some of the sports business model, are they burning out the old ad revenue platform because it's just all gambling money all the time on the ad revenue side? How sustainable is that going to be going forward? Because there's limits to these things, and you're getting some pushback on the public now. Like, God, we're tired of these gambling ads.
That's a really good question.
I know that's broad, but I think it's important.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I guess let me approach it from this angle, because the WNBA was benefited from a really good turn of events the last couple of years to get better TV packages and for their players to get better working conditions, better, higher salaries, etc. And so now you can bet on WNBA games, which, I mean, that to me is that kind of approach is degeneracy. Right now, I mean, whatever. If you want to bet on WNBA games, bet on WNBA games. But I'm not sure that I don't get it. I watched about 30 seconds of a WNBA game last night, and I wish I would have shared the clip, because there was a center with her. She had the ball, and she was being not fronted on defense. She was 3 feet from the basket, and the defender was facing the other way, and she didn't know that she could just pivot and lay the ball up. It took her 5 seconds to. I just think the quality of the game when Caitlin Clark is not playing, the quality of the game is obviously not that great. Okay, I'm a bad guy for saying it, but where I'm going with this is that the money flowed into all sports, right? And so it rolled down to the WNBA, which is benefiting from the largesse of the parent company, the NBA, and the NBA has had a really good run the last 12 months or so. The Knicks
mega, yeah,
but
the mega TV package that people didn't really talk enough about. That number was insane.
That's I think the other point is that you got the mega TV package, which was funded by gambling in most part I mean because the ad revenue,
the
ad revenue, your NBC, your Amazon, and you're saying, yeah, the ad revenue is coming in. We're not sure we care where it's coming from as long as it's coming, which is the same argument that you can be making in the political realm if you're a local TV station. So the NBA gets a very large TV package, and the WNBA also gets a pretty sizable increase in TV rights. Because of what? Is it the Caitlin Clark effect? Is it the money that's coming from the NBA? And you're all of these things are happening at the same time. But when you get to the quality of the product that's on the court or on the field, you're going to start to realize that, okay, well, maybe the quality isn't great. The NBA had a great year. Obviously, when the Knicks are good and the Knicks win it all, and it hasn't happened in 50 some odd years, that's going to help. That's going to help quite a bit. That's going to help with advertisers outside of gambling, but it's also going to drive so much interest in all of the second and third order impact. And the second and third order impact on the WNBA was that they might get a little more interest in their product, But then once people watch the product and they see, we don't know if we like this, we don't know if we like that, is it that great, etc. I think that where I'm going with this is that the product is eventually going to tell the story. So you like NBA this year because I mean the Knicks. Say what you want about the Knicks. I mean they played team ball, right? I mean it was a difference. It
It's
was
fun to watch.
It was fun to watch,
especially with the 3-brick lead that has turned me off to some NBA because I'm not a big fan of just watching people chuck threes. I like how the Knicks play.
Yeah,
I like watching how they play. I like how the Spurs play. Like I enjoyed that series because, and I mean it's still a lot of threes, but I mean the horses out of that barn. It was a good product to watch. It was physical. It was up and down. They have personality. They play hard. You know, all some of the unfair stereotypes the NBA gets. There's none of that with that Knick team. I'm
they
not a Knicks
passed the
fan at all.
ball.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
Yeah, dribble, drive, penetration, those sorts of things that you're like, hey, wait a minute, this is why I watch basketball. And the product, I think, will eventually win out. So if you go back to when was the proliferation of ad dollars in politics? When was that everywhere? I don't know. It's been the last 10 years.
I mean, look, there's eras. So the Clinton era, which is, fundamental to me because that was my first election. The Clinton era was kind of the end of the old it was the peak of national broadcast television news power. So that was where all your ad revenue. So then after that, starting with the Lewinsky saga, which was kind of everybody's introduction to political internet, let's call it what that was, because that story doesn't get out without the internet. That was the first internet thing. Look it up, kids. We're getting old, man. That was a long time ago. From then on, now you have new media. It's like, okay, we have new media. How do we revenueize this? How does it coexist with old media? Now we have, because we're watching it in real time, the legacy network news media model is dying before our eyes, and new media has completely taken over everything, but they still haven't really figured out how to monetize it. A lot of people are making money, but it's not monetized the way the old network system was, if that makes sense. Like everybody knew how that business model was. Everybody's still figuring out the news media thing now, even though that's why I don't get wrapped up in like the CBS Barry White style. I'm like, there's not going to be a CBS News as you knew it in 10 years anyway. I'm not wasting my time on it. That model is dying. The only thing that has kept up the old news media model this long is Trump for the last 10 years because he's the perfect fit for that old model. So once Trump goes and it drops another 10, 15, 20%, which is the Trump bump effect. I mean, this isn't in my opinion, this is data. The Trump effect has held up the old media model. Once he moves on, it's going to drop even more and then it's going to be gone. I think it's the eras of media. People haven't adapted to it. But the other thing is people haven't learned how to really make new revenue to it. And to get back to the sports thing analogy between politics and sports a little bit, I think the NFL has figured out revenue better than any league in the world. That's why they're the most profitable league in the world. They're more profitable than the top 5 soccer leagues combined on revenue. Like they're just printing money right now. The NBA is struggling a little bit because they have more cultural currency and cultural relevancy than they're able to monetize effectively. And I know they got the big TV deal, but they don't do as well in the ratings as they probably should be doing. For example, like they're still trying to figure out how to make that all work together. College football now with the NIL era, after a dip where it got way too regional, college football's figured it out now. We're going to have big leagues with big teams and big matchups, and we're just going to print money. And that's what you're seeing. Major League Baseball has adapted the last 2 years. We're going to change the rules. We're going to make it faster. We're going to have a better TV product. Like you can see what you're talking about in sports in real time. It's not just they know what the tech is. It's like even the smartest leagues in the world, sometimes they stumble trying to figure out how to make revenue out of it. And the follow the money piece is if it's not making revenue, it's not staying. It's that simple. The NFL is not number one king of sport in the world because it's, because of the uniforms and the traditions. It's because they monetize it better than anybody else on the planet. And the NBA is second, third place because they don't monetize it as well. And college football is rising because they've figured out how to monetize it and the networks are in charge now. Those are the things behind the scenes, how money drives things. And whether you're a political fan watching politics or a sports fan watching your team, you have to understand that's the river we're all in. That current's going that way, and you can either get with it or you're going to miss it.
Yeah, I hear you. I was just trying to pull up the, to your point, to trying to pull up the top rated TV shows of 2025.
The NFL is the top rated network TV show on every network and every streamer it's on.
And
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. They're number one on Fox. They're number one on ABC, ESPN. They're number one. Like any network you put them on, they're going to be the number one show on that network, and they're the number one thing on streaming.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So last year, here it is. It's I'm looking for anything that was in 24-25, Super Bowl, AFC. Well, it was Super Bowl and then the pre and post game. And then AFC championship game. I'm looking down for the first thing that was not a NFL game, and it was the college football playoff championship in 2025. So that was rated like 20th, and everything else was everything else that was highly rated was a. Hold on, I just hit the wrong button. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm with you. So for example, the Super Bowl this year polled 135 million or whatever. It was slightly off the all-time, 125 million, slightly off the record of 127 million. They just made a big deal over the U.S. World Cup game that we lost to Belgium. They got 50 million people. It's the biggest non-NFL sporting event TV show ever. And it was still 30, well, I can't do math that fast, 37, 38% of a Super Bowl rating. 50 million people watched that game, including me and my household. 50 million, that's an insane number. And it's still not close to what a Super Bowl pulls. And the AFC title games are going to be 30, 40, 50 million this year probably because just the natural trend of it. The viewership matters, and the viewership is the money. And one of the things with the streamers, that's why the NFL will be, the streaming stuff with the NFL is a great example of this. You just watch how this is adapting. The only thing that is must-watch TV anymore is live sporting events and politics. Everything else is, I'm gonna wait until I can binge the whole season. I'm gonna watch that when I feel like it. The only thing that is must-watch now that'll drive a number like that is live sports or politics. Breaking news obviously will always be that way, but live events and politics, that's it. So that's why you see the business models converging. And that's why you see the struggle of these networks trying to figure out how to revenue it. And I think that's why you see the sports people like, how do we make revenue happen? Oh, well, look at how the political people are making money with commentary and with debate and with that sort of stuff. Let's do that. Because they all work in the same buildings with the, inside baseball, you've done it. When I do the talk radio station, the country station's across the hall, and the pop station's the next office. Like I was just at WCHS. You have the big studio we do it in, but then you go down the hall. It's like, well, here's the newsreaders, and here's the country station, here's the pop station, here's the top 100. Like it's just room. The sports guys, that's how they came up doing radio and TV. It's like they're listening to the political people. Like, man, all I got to do is talk about this guy talking, and my content's done for the day. And they're like, let's do that and make a bunch of money. I mean, that's how that happened, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and then you've got, I think one of the best examples of this is Stephen A. Smith, who is paid for his ubiquity, and he does
super talented guy.
Does a really good job of being everywhere and saying things that get people riled up, and love him or hate him, people tune in. And
I think he's a little high on Mount Hubris now. This I like Stephen A. Smith. I think go watch when he does like speaking events. He's incredibly sharp, very insightful, has a great backstory. Went to Winston-Salem State like he didn't start big. He's there because he worked there. So people can put that out of their mouth. And God deserves to be there. I think he's getting into this thing now where it's like, don't make me report on you. Like, dude, what are you doing? Don't do that. So he's a little high on Mount Hubris right now, but he's a good example of he knew which way the wind was blowing. And I don't like those. I don't watch him daily. I haven't watched ESPN in years because when they started the whole embrace debate thing, I'm like, well, I do that with my day job. I watch sports so I don't have to pay attention to politics. I'm out. I don't do that. I don't like, there's very little sports commentary I like anymore. And a lot of it isn't because the people aren't talented or the subjects don't matter. It's because I do that all day. I have to sit here with my chosen profession and watch that all day with the political side. I want sports to be my different place than that. And I'm not a shut up and dribble guy. I want you to have opinions. I'm really not. I just don't want it. I don't want it there, and I don't want it there, and then I don't want to be a parent fighting with the kid. I don't need embrace debate 24/7 across sport. I want my sports to be different. I don't want to fight with my kids. I don't want to fight with my politics. Like I only got so much fight in me in a day, man. But people must be watching it because they sure keep doing it. And we can talk about the fall of ESPN differently because that's another follow the money thing. But I think people like Stephen A is a good example of it. Of they were just smart enough to see which way the wind's blowing and understand this is a content-based business now. I'm going to be the content, not the sport's going to be the content, not the teams and the stats and breaking down. What's the famous Colin Cowherd quote? He's like, I don't break down games. I break down stories, because that's how you get the national audience now. And I think the Stephen A's just figured out, I am the content. I'm the content. And that's why he makes more money than anybody else in sports media, pretty much. I think it's like him and Rome, and like that's rarefied air, the people making that amount of money.
Yeah, and there's
McAfee.
Well,
McAfee's the name I couldn't think of.
Yeah, and there's only so much. This is why you could make the argument. And so if I'm the team trying to negotiate on behalf of the network or on behalf of the sports properties with the networks, that's kind of why they were able to. That's one reason why they were able to say you need the WNBA to add to your arsenal. You need, like, baseball was very successful in the offseason in getting its, I mean, the moving to NBC and Peacock for that game of the week approach. Brilliant, really great move on the part of everybody. But you're now, if I were part of the MLB team, I'm sure that was the argument, that there are only so many Stephen A. Smiths, and they're not working for your network right now, NBC. So what you need to do is get live events, and you can go back to your nostalgia live event approach. You can bring back Costas. You can get a really sharp play-by-play guy in Jason Benetti, who everybody loves, and you
really
can go,
good guy.
Yeah, we'll go coast to coast every week with the different flavor, and see all the teams, and bring back some nostalgia by bringing some of the voices and some of the names that people are used to. That's the approach that you need, because without a signature talker like a Stephen A. or a Rome, I mean, that's really all you've got is the live event. So, I mean, you take WNBA and you go to all of the networks that were sold the rights and say, yeah, you need live events. You need something to put on your calendar, because you can't talk 24/7, although as much as you want to, as much as you want to try to do that. I mean, this is really the best way to achieve some sort of revenue numbers that are going to keep you employed.
Yeah, WNBA needs a Jim Ross. That's a good idea. That'd make it fun to watch. That's a wrestling reference. People, go look it up. Jim Ross, one of my favorite commentators ever. I want to talk about it too this way: is where politics and the sports are really clashing right now. One of my pet peeves that I hate so bad, but it's the world we live in. Let's be honest. The World Cup really showed out that America has the best sports infrastructure of anywhere on the planet. And I know the Saudis and the Qataris can throw a lot of money at it, but they don't have the infrastructure we do. We talked about this on your program a little bit, that just all of these foreign folks coming over, and they're just like, I can't believe these like Mercedes-Benz and SoFi. I think SoFi is the number one stadium in the world. Mercedes-Benz is 2, and Barcelona's is 3. And I'm not taking any arguments on that. Those are the top 3 stadiums in the world, period. I think it's important to talk about follow the money in sports in this way, because the stadium issues, one of the secret sauces of the NFL is they've been printing money because they're getting the sucker taxpayers to pay for these stadiums. We have 2 recent events that go to this story. One's in Kansas City, one's in Chicago, your backyard, you're very familiar with. But it's very similar, where the teams are moving from where they traditionally have always been, Arrowhead and Soldier Field, and they're going to get new stadium deals, not even in the same states. And again, the lines are right there. So no, they're not going to be the Hammond Bears. But when you see the governor of Indiana on Colin Cowherd's show talking about how he got the Chicago Bears to move to his state because of tax reasons and tax breaks and the business economy, and the fact that they're going to build all this stuff around the stadium, because again, one of the fair criticisms of Soldier Field is you just can't do anything right there at all. You can't even really do, tailgating as people know it. You can explain all that to people in a minute. I've been to Chicago. It's like, you'd be like, why not? And then you walk there and you're like, oh, that's why. Because you're in the middle of a freaking park. I think these stories are going to become more and more prevalent because culture, politics, sports, it's all melding, and the money hits where we do these stadium deals now. Now, I know you got a lot of strong thoughts on this, but there's other examples of that. But the Kansas City one and the Soldier Field one, because those are just iconic stadiums. Arrowhead's in better shape than Soldier Field is. But this was sorry, fans, this was inevitable, is really the story of it and the process of it. But especially the Chicago one, you can talk about how they wound up in Indiana. This is one of those, you got to take your fan cap off and follow the money to find out what really happened here, right?
Yeah, let's go back to 89, I think, was when the Chicago White Sox were this close to moving to Tampa Bay, and the dome was being built in Tampa, and they needed the state of Illinois lawmakers to come up with a stadium deal. And they did. Actually, there was a midnight deadline, and it went like 20 minutes after midnight, but they were able to move the clocks back or whatever to make that happen, keep the White Sox from moving.
You would not be saying Illinois politics is sometimes somewhat shady, would you? That'd be a scurrilous.
But here's the thing, because when you flash forward to now, there's actually a theory that the downstate lawmakers wanted to stick it to the city of Chicago, and the reality was that the Soldier Field is a fine venue for some things. They can sell out Taylor Swift. I think Queens of the Stone Age and Foo Fighters are coming later this year. There are a whole bunch of things that Soldier Field will sell out. And of course, you got Bears season ticket holders. But what the Bears organization wants is to control their own revenue stream and control their own destiny, which is what you've got in Los Angeles, or Inglewood to be accurate, at Los Angeles Stadium or SoFi.
And not to interrupt, but it's important to point out the McCaskies are bottom 3, 4, 5 in, like, they're rich, but NFL ownership rich. They're not in that stratosphere of, like, they're some of the poorest owners, and especially because there's so freaking many of them and it's fragmented. But they don't have a lot of money, so they're chasing that bigger note. You're talking about, Stan Kroenke, who's one of the richest guys. They're not even on the same planet as a Stan Kroenke wealth-wise. So it's important to point that out.
Yeah, and I think most of the I was just looking at a chart earlier, and most of the teams that are where the ownership is less rich are the real old school teams. So the McCaskies are George Hallis's family. Then you think of Cincinnati, and the Brown family has owned the team since its inception. So yeah, you're looking for whatever revenue streams that you can control, and Bears ownership, when they first sort of backtrack, what happened a few years ago was the Bears had signaled, we don't like how things are set up at Soldier Field. We don't like it. We don't like it. It looks like they airdropped the V spaceship on top of the old field, and that's how they ended up with the current look of Soldier Field. They lost the National Historic Register designation because it was not the same thing. It's just the old pillars and then a new toilet bowl that was dropped on top. So they had telegraphed that they wanted out of Soldier Field, and then they bought Arlington Heights Race Course, closed it down, and signaled their intention to create a stadium out there. The idea was still Chicago adjacent, in the suburbs, better tax structure, better setup, and they could have things like everybody wants to host a Super Bowl. Minnesota's hosted a Super Bowl. Indianapolis has hosted a Super Bowl. SoFi, of course, but your teams want to be able to have that Super Bowl revenue to bring in. But it wasn't going to happen unless the Bears were out of Soldier Field. And with Arlington Heights, the problem was the tax bill was still going to be huge. And so that's what the Bears were trying to negotiate was, hey, can we get this tax bill knocked down so that we can build something beyond a stadium? We can have an area that's mixed use, and we can have all of that sort of stuff that you want around a stadium development that's going to bring revenue and line the local economy's pockets. But they ran into that negotiation trouble with the state and with the city of Arlington Heights, and they couldn't negotiate anything with the current administration in the city of Chicago because most of those reasons are Brandon Johnson, who's worse than Lori Lightfoot, who was worse than Rahm, and everybody was like, oh, we don't like Rahm, and then Lori Lightfoot comes along, and they're like, oh, we don't mind Rahm. He wasn't bad.
And you got Pritzker getting ready to run for president, and the Pritzker family and all that there, which is a whole nother level of.
Yeah, and I happened so when the Indiana thing popped up as a possibility and then became a probability, when the state of Illinois just messed up completely and was not able to make whatever concessions were necessary or deemed that they could not make any more concessions. I think that was the nail in the coffin for Pritzker's presidential aspirations, because say whatever you want about whatever you have accomplished in your two, and then when he runs for president, 2.5 terms as governor, you lost the Chicago Bears to a neighboring state and to basically swampland in a neighboring state. And they're moving to Hammond. And you want to claim that you've got an economy that is working for the people?
It's not a good ad for, I hate the terms normies because there's no such thing, but people that don't follow politics every day, that's a story they can clap onto without Googling it, and it just sounds right. You know what I'm saying? Like they just go, oh, the Bears moved to Hammond. That don't sound right to me. Who's in charge of that? the governor wouldn't change the tax rate. Like, whether it's true, not true, or whatever, it just sounds right to normal people that don't keep up with it. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you can imagine if there's a primary. Let's say there's a Democratic primary in the fall of 2027, and
Which
Pritzker
Rahm
has
Emanuel is going
announced.
to be a no chance long shot gadfly at all these early primaries, by the way, because he's running for president too, by the way.
So if you remember I was at a sports bar watching a game, and I got up to go to the men's room, and over the loudspeaker I heard that famous Kamala they them ad that ran during the 2024 campaign, and you could have heard a pin drop in the sports bar from people who were just stunned at this sort of ad running. But it played a role in Trump's victory. Fast forward to 2027, we're in the middle of a Democratic primary. Nobody's really edged ahead of anybody. And someone named Gavin or Kamala or a PAC that doesn't want Pritzker puts an ad up during an NFL game, during a Bears game, puts an ad up that says something along the lines of, Pritzker has allowed the Bears to leave Illinois. Should he be your next president?
Yep.
That's pretty effective. That
Yep.
is pretty effective for the average football watcher. And I mean, I just think I think it has doomed his campaign from the start. And there's no amount of money that can buy his way out of that conundrum.
He gonna try. He got the money to try. By the way, Trump's got a 50-year grudge against the NFL, so you don't think he's gonna jump on that social media bandwagon? I actually, you know what? That one's actually gonna be worth watching because, Trump and the NFL hate each other, so he'll be more than happy to bring up a football failure in that regard. This brings up something else too, because the NFL, we live in the analytics world in sports. Something else Syracuse is famous / infamous for. They were early on the analytics stuff in sports, right? Because all the broadcasters they're pumping out all know about it before everybody else did. Analytics is basically a fancy way of saying there's so much money involved, we have to have hard data because these decisions are expensive. That's really what you're saying when you're saying analytics. So go ahead. I could see it in your face. You're just like,
Well, I mean, I'd point to one of the problems. I mean, we had, I guess there was, I saw a stat somewhere on Twitter. It's probably from Not Gaetti, who is just brilliant. And the stuff that he shares on the baseball front is great. And everybody should follow him. Not Gaetti, a reference to Gary Gaetti, who played for many a team, Twins, Cubs, Cardinals, a whole bunch of others. Great guy. Everybody loves Gary Gaetti. So Not Gaetti had something along the lines of, for, I don't know, 150 years, no pitcher had ever been pulled from a game for non-medical reasons while he has a perfect game going after, 6 innings. And it happened twice in the last week in Major League Baseball. And the only reason that this is happening is purely analytics. You're just saying, oh, well, we've got a pitch count. And so we have to cost justify our investment in these players. And if we're using them too much and their arm is going to explode, we don't want to be blamed for that. So therefore, after 92 pitches or whatever the number it is, we're going to pull this guy, even though he has a perfect game going. And I think that underscores, you had the Miz yesterday for Mizorowski for Milwaukee, scheduled to pitch against Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh, but they decided that he needed some rest. So you got people who are showing up for the big pitching duel, and then they get there and it's only one half of the pitching duel, and they decide to use a bullpen day, and then the Pirates ended up with double-digit runs in one of the innings. And, so, it's all when the the old thinker type managers are run out of the game, and instead you've got either the caretaker manager who's going to have to answer to the higher ups, or the ones who are just going to be 100% quant focused. Yeah, it starts to become a problem. It starts to become a problem. I've told this story before, probably not on air, but I used to work with, back in my college athletics days, the conference we were in. There was a chap who worked for the Kansas City Royals, and this is back in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, and their old adage was there are only two things that will bring people to the ballpark: fireworks and Nolan Ryan. And we're we're away from those, we're away from those days in a lot of what we're seeing. And I mean, you can use that adage in baseball. You can use it in the NBA, where you got the people who would save their money to go see Jordan that one time a year, and Jordan, who famously was playing 82 games every year, because he knew that somebody's investing in, and this is a big investment for them to come and see me when I roll into their town. I'm gonna show up and give it my all. And you compare that with the modern approach of, we've got to be analytics focused, so we need our guys' load management to be such so that we're maximizing the amount of value we get from them, at the expense of those who bought the tickets.
Yeah.
We're over quanted in sports, and it's a real problem.
You do realize that all of modern media's problems is the Kansas City Royals' fault, right? I'm not joking.
Okay.
I'm serious. I'm gonna
Where are you going with
I'm
this?
gonna draw this line. Watch this.
Where are you going with this?
All of modern media's good, bad, and indifferent, the modern media business model, both in sports and politics, comes from the Kansas City Royals. You know why?
No.
Because a multiple time failed fired DJ in 1979 got a marketing job with the Kansas City Royals and figured out, hey, it doesn't matter what I say if I don't make money doing it. And then he got a job. He's like, let me go across the street to the other station in Kansas City and give this thing another try and see if I succeed this time. And that business model that he built is running all of news media now, and sports media to a great extent that stole it from it, because the Kansas City Royals hired Rush Limbaugh. Yep. And forget his politics. Rush Limbaugh's business model. Fox News is the Rush Limbaugh business model. The way all of content media, that's the Rush Limbaugh business model. You're a marketing guy, okay? All of marketing in the last 40 years comes from the way Rush Limbaugh built his syndicated radio show and the ad revenue platform that he had. People don't understand the business side of that, and I blame the Kansas City Royals because it's all their fault.
Well,
I am not making any of that up. That's a true story. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's what happened.
I could tell a story from my first paid radio job was in the summer of 1989 at WAMJ in South Bend, Indiana. So I got a summer job as a board op because I grew up there. And our station was one of the first. I don't know how many EIB network stations there were at the time, but WAMJ was one of the first controversial ones, in that it wasn't like the WKRP stunt where there were people showing up with the picket signs, but it was close and it made the news. And then Rush himself jumped on it and said, this is this is an opportunity. I'm going to do whatever I can to market this opportunity. And the station benefited so much that they were unable. It was a tiny, I mean, I used to call it the Radio Shack because it was in kind of like a mobile home almost. And the but they'd have the Rush show on every day, and it became so popular in South Bend that they were unable to keep the rights to Rush's show. After a couple of years, it moved over to the bigger, more well-funded AM station in town. But yeah, Rush knew. I mean, this is 1989 when this was happening, and Rush knew that he had caught lightning in a bottle and made this. He had people calling, and I think it was like a week or so of just people calling in with their support of this tiny station in South Bend, because they wanted to keep Rush on the air. And
that was right when he went to WABC in New York too, because that was what, 88, 89. That's when he got his national. Like, it was right when he popped, basically.
Yeah, and the beauty of, and I remember saying this, and I'll admit I was quite liberal, had been quite liberal for I was a Clinton voter. So going back ages, I was pretty liberal at the time. But I remember being, I guess, I could pat myself on the back for being smart enough to recognize a well-produced, well-constructed radio program. And I always said to people, even if they were not politically aligned with Rush way back then, it's like, this guy understands how to produce a radio program for maximum effect.
It was entertainment that did politics, not the other way around. You know what? Let's go there real quick, because I think this goes to, we started out talking about how sports commentary has turned into political commentary. It's all the same stuff, just we're doing teams instead of Team Blue and Team Red, which I use a lot because it's true. That's how we cover it: Team Blue, Team Red.
Yeah.
What you just said is part of it. Is if you're not, let me back up just a step. We're watching in real time what happens when people put the politics in the content economy before the content part in the content economy. The substance has to be there. Now, everybody thinks, oh, well, substance doesn't matter anymore. And it doesn't matter anything. Like, did you just watch what happened with the Plattner situation? Like, no, substance eventually won, because in the modern media content thing, yeah, you can BS your way to the top a lot faster, but you're also going to get exposed faster because there's just too many people with too many I remember talking to a buddy of mine that is a minister, and we were talking about cell phones and stuff. He goes, I had kind of an epiphany when I got upset because everybody was on their phones and I was trying to preach. And then he said, I literally walked by one of the kids just to see what they were doing. It's like, no, they were Googling what I was saying to see if it was true or not. They were 100% paying attention. They weren't on a game. They were trying to see if what I was saying was true or not. And I know that the thing online is just people believe everything. I'm like, I'm telling you, because I have a lot of young adults in my life. My kids are all 18 to 26 now. The generation behind us, well, really 2 generations behind us, really, that's how they do this stuff. When you say something, unless they're ate up partisanship or something, they check everything. My kids do this. Like, I can't say anything without getting corrected 6 times. I got to win the argument. They're Googling everything. So yeah, you can get famous faster. You can get instant famous. You can get viral video. If you don't have some substance, you're not going to stay there very long, because this new generation, they want the next thing that's substantive. And if you're not, they're going to figure it out way, way faster than like that whole Plattner thing was really a 6-week story, believe it or not. It seemed like, because we're right against it, that would have been like 6, 7, 8 months in the old days, because it would have took a while to get it back out.
Right.
But there was so many of us just going up front, like, no, this is going to end bad. I remember when the Plattner story, when his name first started circulating, somebody that I know in DC and DC circles said that guy's got a history in DC from several years ago before he went back to Maine. You need to leave all of this alone. Don't touch it. That's what I got told by somebody that knew, because they knew, they're like, this is going there. Too many people know that's got people on speed dial that can get the story out. It's going to come out. Just wait. And sure enough, it happened. So when you're saying that about the content economy, whether it's sports or media, I think this is an important thing to bring up. You rise faster, you can get more money up front. It's a lot farther to fall, and you fall a lot faster now too. And we're seeing that in media and politics both.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really interesting to have watched, and I'm thinking about, as you were saying this about Plattner specifically, you and I were on my show. I know we just did a thing a few weeks ago, but before that, it might have been like 6 weeks or so ago. It was right when, so it was June. Yeah, it was early June, or late. It was when the Tallarico versus Paxton
Yeah, the
thing
primary happened.
had been. Yeah, Paxton had beaten Cornyn, and we were like, okay, they're going to throw a lot of money at this Tallarico thing. We didn't even talk about Plattner at the time. We did not even talk about Plattner because he was still he was still in the primary race. He was still kind of an unknown quantity. We didn't even bring it up. But so I guess the question that I'm reminded of the old Andrew Breitbart line of politics is downstream of culture, and maybe that's kind of where all of this is going in some respects, where if you look at a guy like a Plattner, and you can think of him as they were trying to make fetch happen in Maine, and it was not going to happen with this particular guy, because as much as they, and I'm going to say they, referring to the Democratic establishment, as much as they were saying this guy is the type of person that we can rally behind because of what he stands for, the reality is that the dude is a bad dude, probably a pariah, and you can't make that culturally happen and be successful in the fall. And that finally probably ended up being the death knell for his campaign. So, I mean, if you think about it, you go all the way back to Rush Limbaugh, who would be culturally figures out kind of, this is how I need to carry myself. This is how my persona is going to be. This is the culture I want to build. And as you said, he was a content creator, marketer first, and a politician second. But everything kind of was downstream of the persona that he created.
The analogous thing here with the politics and money is we idolize people and then we lose disconnect. So whether it's a politician or a sports star, we're seeing that we're doing the NBA offseason right now. So you're seeing players getting traded and people just losing their mind. Like, how can you trade this guy? He's a great player. And they'll be like, well, yeah, he's great on TV. He passes the eye test. He's bad at analytics, and he's a pain in the butt in our building. and we have to pay him an ungodly amount of money, and we have a salary cap in the apron, so we can't afford not his current contract. His next extension is going to be even worse. So, yeah, it looks bad for us, but the business side of it says we're going to do this. But then people see the NBA is the better example of it because it's always been the flashy league. It's the cool hip league. It's the, can you dunk a ball? Well, the best dunkers in the world weren't the greatest basketball players always. Some of them were, but a lot of them weren't. A lot of the most athletic guys sometimes don't, but they pop and they're popular. Like, I can't believe he's awesome. And then he can't win a playoff game because he doesn't know how to pass and move without the ball, right? We see that in politics all the time now where they idolize these people, they pump them way up. And people that, if you're trying to do an honest analysis, like I try to do, I'm sitting there going like, yeah, he doesn't have an electoral, him or her, whatever the case may be. This can't, Nikki, let me use Nikki Haley, darling of all kinds of people. And for years, I was like, she doesn't have a constituency outside of South Carolina. What's her constituency? She doesn't have a group of different people to commemorate to give her a winning constituency. There's no constituency for her, so I don't buy it. Same thing with when Beto O'Rourke ran against Cruz. I'm like, Cruz is immensely not popular, so that's going to give Beto a bump up. But what's the constituency in Texas for him to get over the hump of we just are mad at Ted Cruz? There wasn't one. We'll see if Tallarico does better against a much more flawed candidate. You have to have those constituencies. So like in sports, it's like, NBA, can he pass? Can he play within the system? Does he make other players better? Or does he just pound the air out of the ball and shoot 45 times and got a great stat sheet? Like, those are two different things. And we do this in politics all the time. We just go like, I like how he sounds. I like how he looks. He's going to be awesome. And because I felt that way, I will not see any flaws in this person whatsoever. Boy, I see that in sports a lot, where you just can't tell people that guy that's really flashy on the YouTube clips is not actually very good at his sport because it's a team sport. I mean, that's what we're doing to our political figures.
Yeah, I think of two examples to underscore that. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of the Joker in Denver, Nikola Jokic. I think he's the guy I like watching clips of because he does everything. But he's a consummate. The interesting thing about him is that he's never gonna sell out arenas, and he's never gonna be the marketing.
They had to contractually obligate him to go to the championship parade. Because he's like, no, I got a horse race. Remember this story? He's like, I got a horse race I want to go to. Do I have? He's like, no, you have to go to the parade for the championship.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy closes out. This is the thing I'll always remember about the Joker. He closes out the victory. Okay, they win. I think it was 5 games they won against the Heat. He goes to find every Heat player after the game is done. I mean, there's confetti flying or whatever. He goes to find every Heat player to shake their hand, not just the guys who are on the floor, like everybody on the team before he goes and celebrates. And the guy's just kind of classy, cool. I'd like to hang out with him, but I don't think he'd want to hang out with me or anybody else, and that's fine. But the parallels here are kind of, if you think about a Joker, you want this guy on your team, right? And the electability question is, maybe it's a weird parallel to draw, but you would want a Joker as your senator to do the job, and
not take himself too seriously doing it.
Yeah, not take himself too seriously doing it. You would want him as kind of the senator in North Dakota or Nebraska or something. But at the same time, you're going to know probably, he might be Nikki Haley, and it's going to be a known quantity. who is not electable on a national scale. And so I think that if we're drawing the parallels, I'm a big fan of knowing your role. I'm a big fan of knowing where you fit in the scheme. And this goes for sports, this goes for business, this goes for politics, kind of understanding what your job is and your willingness to do that job. And there are some people who will be a Trump, and they'll be a once in a lifetime type person that pops up and their job is to become president. And there are other people who are like, you're going to be the sixth man off the bench, and you need to understand that you are the sixth man off the bench, and don't try to aspire to be something beyond the sixth man off the bench. But you want to be part of a championship organization. We can help you do that.
I was just thinking about that as you said that. It's like, man, there's an old joke in the U.S. Senate about how there's 100 Senate seats, but you only have about 70 senators because the other 30 are running for president all the time. Our government really does lack we don't have enough role players. We need some good role players everybody's too ambitious, which, the system's designed for human ambition. But we don't have enough good role players anymore to really beat the sports analogy to death. But I was thinking about that when you were saying that. It's like, yeah, there's not enough role players in our Congress critters right now. Everybody wants to be in charge of everything. Everybody wants the camera right on them. I want to get to this before we have to wrap up our time. Talking about following the money to get to the truth. I think, and I don't want to bash the sports gambling thing too much, but I think it just shows something really important. Because again, I'm not for prohibition. I think the England model where maybe you restrict some of the advertising might be something we're going to have to look at some point, but you're not going to, I don't think you should be able to live bet a game while it's going on while you're sitting there. That's probably a regulation. We probably need, live betting during the game. Like, you got to close that thing out. That's been something in betting for forever. We probably need to rein that in, but I'm not a prohibitionist on gambling, even though I do not gamble. I think what the sports gambling is doing is it's doing what social media does. Money, power, alcohol, you add social media to it. I think we need to add gambling to it. It just tells you more of who somebody already is if you strip the filters off. What the American people and the sports, and we're seeing with politics with this Kelsey stuff now in the futures market, it's betting. People want to feel like they're not only important, but their ideas are important and that they got skin in the game, and they want that rush of it. And I understand why they want to do that. But when you're dealing with something like politics where, you're talking about healthcare as a parlor game, but people's health really matters. Or you're talking about foreign policy and dropping bombs on people, which is life and death stuff. And healthcare is life and death stuff. And, CPS reform is life and death stuff. I think it's creating more of a chasm than it's closing, where, yeah, you're getting more engagement in the political process, but I'm not sure it's good engagement. I think it's a lot of fandom engagement where it's just my team wins or everything's bad. And it's a lot of, the other team is horrible, evil people who hate their mother and hate God and their feet smell bad. And there's no redeeming quality ever because they're on the other team. And those things aren't good. But I think that mentality, whether it's sports or politics, of wanting more skin in the game also false feeds how important it is and blows it out of proportion. And I think that's why you're seeing so much of the ugliness with the social media and both those content streams right now.
There seems to be we're searching for meaning again. I think the numbers of, for instance, young converts to Catholicism or people returning to organized religion writ large is part of a testament to that, pun intended, that there's so much of the meaning seems to have been stripped out of everything because it's in your pocket and you can opine on it on social media, or you can bet on it. You can remove the meaning from everything by reducing it to a binary question of, will this person win or not, or will this certain thing be achieved? Will I get 1,000 likes on this post? Will I grow my subscriber count? Will I get X number of views on my TikTok? We've all done it. I've done it. But I think it underscores the need for meaning and the reason that people are starting to move to a more, on the one hand, a more analog approach to living, the flip phone coming back, real books coming back, attendance by young people in not just, say, Catholic Mass, but traditional Latin Mass making a comeback with young people who may
Not
not
me,
totally...
brother. I'm a Baptist. I need casserole and plain speech.
but
But I get it. Ritual can be comforting. I get it.
Yeah,
I understand it.
Yeah, and
especially when there's chaos, because you go from chaos. I've got half my family's Catholic. I've got one of my closest friends in the military actually went through Lower Seminary to be a priest. And he went through Lower Seminary in upstate New York during the scandals of the late 90s, early 2000s. So he's walking around in a clerical collar while all that's going on. Not what you want to be doing when you're 19, 20 years old, right? Tough situation. And then 9/11 happened and he enlisted which was dumb on his part. He should have stuck it out and been an officer, but I love the guy. We had these deep conversations about this. Some of them while we were in Iraq. We would talk about this stuff like, I understand when it's all chaos all the time. I get where ritual feels really safe. Like that's just not just the faith part of it, but just this is chaotic. I come in here, I know exactly what I'm doing for the next 55 minutes. I'm going to stand now. I'm going to sit now. I'm going to sing here. You can tell why you're doing that. And the reason I jumped on that is because the bad faith people know that too. And they'll jump on as like, oh, we'll give you the ritual so you feel safe, but the ritual is going to give us power, not you finding comfort. We're going to set this up for you to just be the cog in our machine. You'll feel comfortable, but it's for us to get power and for us to get money. And people get sucked into that, unfortunately. I'm not saying that about the Catholic Church writ large. I'm just saying there's bad faith people that were like, oh, we'll make you more comfortable. We'll give you your ritual to make you feel good, but they don't have good meaning for doing it. So I think what you're saying is true. I think we see it in sports fans. I think we see it in political fans because human nature is undefeated. Human nature tells us to do that. Follow your leaders, sit here. We want that kind of stuff. It's really good in faith and really good in a church service. It's really bad for democracy, probably, though. For representative government, because we don't have enough good priests and preachers either, by the way, but we don't have enough good followers right now or people to follow. I think you're on to, is going to a rock concert or going to a sporting event and yelling any different than going to church and worshiping? That's a real hazy line for a lot of people right now. That's something I struggle with. I think about that. Like, okay, am I really focusing on God at church or am I just enjoying the service? Like, that's a deep question if you're honest about it. Am I here for the ritual because I feel better, or am I here because this is making me think? Those are deep questions. Deep questions aren't great on social media. They don't fit social media really well, do they? They fit podcasts really well, but not social media.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too far afield of that, but it's like, how am I going to have common sense on TV doing politics if I don't challenge myself sitting in church or doing stuff at home or like it all goes together of, I don't want to be a fan. I don't want to be a fan of politics. I want to be a participant. I don't want to be a sports fan where I just watch it, turn it off. Like, no, this stuff matters more than that. But how do I do it in a healthy way? How do I not do harm and good? How do I not, when Lindsey Graham dies, everybody, I had multiple people like, I won't be on social media today because Lindsey Graham died. I'm talking left, right, center, across the spectrum. Like, I'm not going to be on social media today because I don't want to read that stuff because they just know, you're going to see bad stuff. Those are the things I try to think about. And they don't make great video clips, and nobody on YouTube is going to watch a clip of us talking about that. But that's what makes you human, man. Like, if we're going to do good work in media, you got to have those private moments of challenging yourself and going, no, this ain't good enough. I need to work hard on this. So do I need to take my faith a little more seriously? Do I need to take politics a little less seriously? How do I balance this stuff? How do you deal with that? Because I struggle with it. So I'm just like, no, I'm just going to be open and go, no, I struggle with this stuff because it's big and it's important and it's hard.
Yeah.
But I'm a Baptist. I got eternal security. I don't have to go through all the Catholic stuff y'all do. So it's a little easier for me, just saying. But, casserole, eternal security. It's all good, brother. No funny hats, bacon whenever we want it. It's a great faith. Y'all come join us. Meetings are at Chick-fil-A, 3:00 on Sundays. Come join us.
Yeah, Catholics only have to avoid bacon on Fridays during Lent.
Y'all fish fries are legit. I'll give you that one. I love a good Friday fish fry. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I took my eldest to a fish fry this year. My buddy TJ had one at his church. The local KFC chapter was there. My dad who died in 2009 was a Knights of Columbus member, and the opportunity to go to a fish fry was something I number one had to jump on, and number two had to bring my eldest daughter, who thought it was just the most amazing thing ever. But your question was, how do I balance all of that? And I had a thing yesterday where I said on X that you should stay away from Facebook today because the comments after the death of Lindsey Graham were going to be ugly, and they'd already become ugly. And then I had someone mentioned the trope of well, what did you say when Trump had his comments about the death of Mueller? And my mistake was saying that I said the same thing. I don't like the ugly comments. But I had one gentleman who is somehow in Canada, and if he's watching, he's going to be like dancing a jig because I'm bringing him up because he's living rent free in my head, according to him. But he actually went back through my old tweets to try to find evidence that I had said that Mueller, anything about Trump and Mueller or anything about Mueller. And the only Mueller related comment I had made on my Twitter account, like ever, was something during the NCAA basketball tournament in 2022, where I said that Mueller had defeated Kansas State. And I don't even know why I said that, what the context was.
The Wildcats out here catching strays. How'd that happen?
But so he used that as kind of a gotcha. Well, no, you didn't say anything about Mueller. I don't need to broadcast everything I say to people.
No. And the other X. Half of it is even worse. Is like, well, you criticize Lindsey Graham. What do you mean you're not going to say anything? But I was like, because me disagreeing with him on policy, or I can call him a weather vane because he flip-flops so much, doesn't mean he wasn't a good human being. Like, you know why Lindsey Graham? This is a great way to wrap this up. You know why everybody's like, how did that guy keep getting elected? I will tell you from firsthand knowledge, he had the best constituency services of anybody in the U.S. Senate. And that's not my opinion. He had the best. If you called his office, you got a call, you got an answer, you got a follow-up. Go look on social media how many people worked for him or worked in the Senate, showing pictures of, this is the stuff Lindsey Graham's office sent me. Hey, here's this time they sent me a box of fruit just because I did this one little thing. The dude knew how to politic old school style. So he worked with everybody. Everybody in the Senate liked Lindsey Graham personally. He was the guy that would yell at you in your face and 5 minutes later pat you on the back and go, yeah, that got too heated. Let's not do that. Like, you see the caricature on TV that he was on TV, and he flip-flopped and was against Trump and then for Trump and then against Trump and then for Trump. That's all true. And I can criticize that in the moment. And when he dies, I can still go on radio in Myrtle Beach, which I did this morning, and on Canadian news that I'm going to do later today, and go, yeah, that guy had amazing constituency services. He took care of his people. He advocated. He fought his corner. I didn't always agree with him, but you cannot say he wasn't an effective U.S. senator, because he was an extremely effective U.S. senator. Everything ran through him. At some point, I think it was Punchbowl this morning, I'm going to paraphrase it. I think Punchbowl was saying, like, yeah, at some point, everything in the Senate was the what's Lindsey think about this, and is he going to support it or not stage of legislative, because he was that effective, and that, you had to do that, especially in later years when he ran judiciary, or he's running the budget committee right now. Boy, is that going to hurt in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I get people on social media like, well, I was like, because I know the online disagreement policy fighting online is different from the human being. And there are just a lot of people that can't do both at the same time.
Yeah.
They just do not understand. I was like, you understand those two big name accounts that are yelling at each other on Twitter? Like, they're going to go to lunch and laugh about you losing your mind about the two of them fighting because they're really buddies in real life and they're working you. Like, that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen them, man. They stand in the rotunda and they do the interview and they're calling each other names. And then as soon as the Keel lights go off, they go hook up and go eat lunch together because it's a game. Well, like, people just can't put those things together.
Meet the Press had a great clip yesterday, and I don't customarily watch.
They love Lindsey. He's their favorite guest of all time.
64 times. He was supposed. He
was Meet the Press.
63 times. It was
like
supposed to be
Russert and him. That's how many people have been on Meet the Press.
But they were showing a clip from 2004 of
It'd be his second year in Congress. That's
Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Hillary Clinton talking about, and I forget what they were even talking about. It was something bipartisan that they were pushing, the two of them. And what was cool about it was that you could tell that they actually kind of dug hanging out with each other. Yeah. And I would imagine that they would do kind of a public argument about this, that, or the other thing when they were both in Congress or in Senate. But the reality was that, the human being, I'm sure the guy was probably fun to hang out with.
Oh, everybody liked him.
And that seems to be
people who didn't like him liked him. He was that kind of guy. No, you're laughing, but that's how it got explained to me multiple times, talking to the congressional reporters. They're like, even the people that don't like him like him. Like, he wasn't. There's really abrasive personalities in the Senate. He wasn't one of them. He never lost that quality of he's a people person. He's the old school people person politician. Good, bad, and indifferent. Got him in trouble too.
Right.
But because he chameleoned to who he was dealing with, which is, that's an integrity issue, but that's neither here nor there. He was a people person. So people talking about how much they were shocked and they didn't. The people, when you have to work with somebody every day, the people that are just, oh, I'm glad he's here because he's easy to work with, even though I'm against him. They're sad to see that go, because the person that's going to replace him is not going to be as fun to hang out with as Lindsey Graham was. Yeah. That's just fact.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dave Van de Walle, I kept him longer than I said I was going to. One real quick one, then I got to get out of here though, but put your marketing hat on real quick. Do some projecting out, because I think the gambling thing has kind of peaked out the sports media a little bit. I think we've reached the zenith of political advertising, because I think people are tuning in now, and I think the primary numbers are showing that people just aren't paying attention to it anymore unless it's something really amazing. You have small states like my home state of West Virginia. They've got all the ad spots bought every cycle now. You can't put more on. It's just a bidding war. Where do you think marketing wise sports and politics go in the next 5 to 10 years? Because I do feel like we're on kind of one of those change precipices where what we're doing isn't going to last much longer. It's just something's got to give here somewhere. Whether it's the gambling thing, social media getting, balkanized for more revenue, which is what we're seeing with the streamers. Where do you see this going? Because something's got to change in the next year or two, just business model wise, as the networks continue to decline.
I think the money is going to go more and more towards, okay, if we talk news, politics, that sort of thing, it's going to be towards streamers and towards YouTubers and towards independent podcasters and the like. And that's where it's going to grow. You mentioned 60 Minutes and CBS and all of the problems that they're having there. It's a network news, does not pull the numbers that it used to pull. Everybody knows that. The numbers are going to continue to be found at the ends of the spectrum, and the right-leaning end of the spectrum is Fox News, and it's going to be for the non-foreseeable, or for the foreseeable future. And on the left end of the spectrum, it's going to be, I think MSNBC has seen its numbers go up, or MS Now, sorry about that, has seen its numbers go up when Trump got reelected, which is wild how they did that.
Their rebranding is going really well, by the way, where they're MS Now and it's actually working for them. So.
I think part of what works for them is the polar opposite element. And I think that you mentioned how Trump has been good for business on both sides, and Trump is good for the old model. I think once we're in a post-Trump presidency model, and the reality is that it's President Vance, President Rubio, President Newsom, President Harris, President, I don't know, somebody else that has a chance. That's gonna put a bright highlighter on the problems with traditional media, because these shows are going to be, the mainstream media shows are just going to, it's not that they're going to cease to exist, but the advertising dollars are going to start chasing something else. They're going to chase niche audiences. They're going to chase streamers, podcasters, etc. They're going to want the next Joe Rogan. It's going to be the Hassan Piker.
Yeah, putting the podcast on the streamers, I don't know that that's going to be it. I know they're getting big money to put the big name podcasts on Netflix and whatever, but I don't know, man. I don't think that one's going to go real long.
Well, I think what's happening though is that they'll do, because if you think about what happened with Rogan, where it moved over to Spotify at the expense of YouTube, and then it moved back to YouTube, or YouTube and Spotify, et cetera. I think that these arrangements will mature. And Bill Simmons did this with The Ringer, where he said, well, we're not getting what we used to get on YouTube, so we got to go over to Netflix, and then however it's going to play out, it's going to play out. But I think there's going to be more of a need for the niche audiences going forward, and the outlets like the Free Press, which were made possible by just the general nature of things, going away from traditional media, now taking over traditional media, with Barry Weiss at CBS. I think that's how it's going to all continue to evolve.
Yeah, I think so too. But like the Free Press, I don't want to bash on them, but I don't care about the CBS News story and Barry Weiss at all. Like every time I see somebody freaking out, I'm like, I don't care. It's a dying, like the Free Press model isn't going to work at CBS. CBS is a declining model where it'll be a niche news service in the future. Like I'm going to limit my bandwidth on that story, because it's like I'm going to limit how much I'm going to worry about the horsewhip factory going out of service because the cars replaced the carriages. That's how I feel about it. And I know people are like, well, it's like, yeah, but I know a whole lot of really good journalists that are going a la carte or going with the nonprofit model. Or I work for one of them. I take a check from one of them, State's Newsroom, nonprofit, best state house report. You want to talk about important reporting? State house reporters are where it's at. That's where the real stuff really matters. That model's doing great. They're going to be here longer because they're built it from the ground up on, here's our niche. We report on State House News. There's always going to be a model for that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to limit how much I'm worried about how it's going to evolve other than watching it, because you can already see it coming. Like, No, that's not the end of journalism. The good journalists are just figuring out a different way to do it. You're just not going to be able to sit at, you're not going to be able to go to NBC and sit in an office at 30 Rock and make an immense amount of money anymore. You're going to have to get your hustle on. That's the difference.
I hear you. You're right.
I'd love to do this for 2 more hours. Let's do it again. Sound like a plan?
Sounds great, man. I appreciate it.
Dave Van de Walle, check out the Vandy program on that YouTube that everybody else is on. You should check it out as well. But that is the world's, like, if you say TV, my kids think YouTube. So that is the new TV for the younger guys. Vandy program is also on the Substack right here. Make sure you give him a like and a follow. And I'm on his program occasionally. Hopefully he'll still invite me back after this.
I shall.
Buddy, I shall. Let's talk about it. Thanks a lot, Dave. Appreciate you, sir.
Alrighty. Cheers, man. Sir. Thanks.